In Game 6 of the 2021 Western Conference Finals, at the tender age of 36 years and 55 days old, Chris Paul authored the signature game of his career, a 16 of 24, 41-point virtuoso to send the Suns to their first NBA Finals since way back in 1993.
God want us to win the world championship.
I don't know if I go that much off.
No, I talked to him the other night.
The point god worked his pick and roll magic to dissect the Clippers in Game 6, and while a ton of his points came off of long-range daggers, or the occasional shuffle all the way to the rim, and then some possible dramatic film auditions, pow! Paul's bread is still buttered in the mid-range. His in-between game is arguably more important to him now than it was earlier in his career. And to break down why, Jordan Sperber from the wonderful Hoop Vision 68 channel is back, and yes, that means talk of threes and twos and analytics.
Layups and threes. Wait, what?
Yes, 3 is more than 2. 2 is more than 0.
Well, it has really nothing to do with analytics.
So they want you to either get a 3-point shot or a 2-point shot.
We need to put the analytics. And I'm like, whoa.
Analytics.
No, don't go down this
I'm
road
saying,
again, dude.
Wait a minute.
Please,
Wait a minute. Just let
please.
me, as I've told you, analytics.
Nothing quite gets the mid-range debate going again like a clutch playoff performance from one of the game's stars. This year it's been Chris Paul knocking down elbow jumper after elbow jumper. The problem with these debates is how reductive they become. Shot selection is the result of a possession, but there's a whole process that leads to that result. It's not like Chris Paul dribbles down and yells out left corner 3 or alley-oop dunk. Instead, he calls out a play, usually one that contains a series of actions and reads. The result is a shot, but only focusing on that result ignores very important context. Spain pick and roll is where the handler receives a ball screen while the screener receives a back screen. It's one of the Suns' favorite actions. They like to run it in the middle of the floor with 2 shooters stationed in the corners. So with that in mind, watch these 3 plays. On the first one, Paul snakes the screen to his sweet spot, nailing the jumper. On play number 2, he finds Ayton on the roll, with Caldwell Pope forced to hack, sending Ayton to the line. The Nuggets collapse on the roll for play number 3, leading to a kick-out 3-point attempt. 3 Spain pick and rolls, 3 different results. By simply plotting the attempt on a shot chart, we'd have no idea that these 3 plays were the same. And that's exactly where the mid-range debate gets misinformed. Expected values and points per possession have changed our understanding of shot selection forever. NBA offenses have never been more efficient because of it. But it's not as simple as plotting a result on a shot chart. What action was being run? What coverage was the defense in? Which player has the ball? How much time is on the shot clock? The details matter. For the star players in the NBA, the pull-up mid-range jumper is still a valuable and sometimes even necessary means of creation. It's everyone else, the role players, that are mostly being relegated to only 3-pointers and shots at the rim. So far in the playoffs, 75% of pull-up jumpers have come from just the top 20% of players. For a player like Chris Paul, his shot selection has remained relatively steady throughout his Hall of Fame career. It's the shot selection of his teammates that have changed so much in the past 15 years. Here's Paul during the 2011 playoffs. After he rejects the ball screen, look at the spacing. Carl Landry's spotting up for a long 2, and the Lakers are packed in the paint. Now compare that to this year against the Lakers. Spacing is optimized on the weak side. Gasol is forced to step up, and then Craig beats Horton Tucker on the cut to the basket. Paul rejects again here, Jokic steps up, and then Crowder lifts up when he sees his man dropping to help. In these plays, Paul is the creator. He's using his dribble to create advantages. Bridges and Crowder are the maintainers. They're maintaining that advantage by spacing on the weak side and finding the open 3 or attacking a closeout to get all the way to the rim. A lot of maintainers were like Carl Landry at the start of Paul's career, hanging out in no man's land. That's how the game has changed. A player can be both a creator and a maintainer within the same possession. Paul uses the ball screen here to create an advantage, but then he gets the ball back and attacks a long closeout, helping continue a beautiful possession of ball movement. This possession has even better ball movement. With Porter hedging the screen, the recovery back to Crowder puts the Nuggets in rotation. The Suns whip the ball around the perimeter, using 6 passes to convert the initial advantage from the hedge into a 3. This play is from Paul's first career playoff game back in 2008. On Dirk's hedge, the Pelicans don't have the weak side shooting or spacing to keep the help defense honest. Same thing on Lamar Odom's hedges in 2011. The Lakers could get away with putting 2 players on the ball, daring Landry to shoot the 3 or put the ball on the floor out of the short roll. That allowed for a pretty simple defensive game plan. Get the ball out of the primary playmaker's hands. These days, it's hard to get away with that aggressive coverage while also defending the pick and pop 3. And while DeAndre Ayton might not be a 3-point shooter, he can do this out of the short roll. When the Nuggets helped on the roll, then the skip pass opened up. Speaking of skip passes, watch what happened when the Mavs sent a second defender at David West. It's jarring to see a guard like Bonzi Wells just spotting up in no man's land instead of taking a step back for a more efficient shot. Not only do spot-up players now make sure to catch the ball behind the 3-point line, the best shooters are taught to continue to stay behind it by sidestepping after the flyby.
Like 3 or 4 years ago, and prior to that, my whole career, my mindset was always to take that dribble in and shoot like a 17-footer. And I thought it was a pretty high percentage shot for me. And like last year in Philly at the beginning of the year, their analytics guy was like, here's what you shoot it well, but here's what that shot's worth.
Right.
If you sidestep, here's what it's worth. And when I saw that, I was like, it actually messed me up at the beginning of the season because I was thinking about it too much. But now it's like programmed into all of us to just sidestep.
Yeah. So I took that same shot in Michigan.
Yeah.
And that was
the step into.
The step into. And that was one of the first things when I got to Miami that they said, like, yeah, you're not shooting that anymore. It's either a sidestep or you're hitting it big and chasing it.
In an era with so much shooting around the perimeter, the paint has never been more open at any point in basketball history. When Paul would go to snake a ball screen early in his career, he might literally bump right into a teammate. Now he can control the paint, taking his time and getting to his old reliable, the right elbow pull-up jumper. Most right-hand players like to dribble left to pull up into a jumper, but Paul's unique in that sense, twisting his body in the air to get his right shoulder aligned to the rim. Just 8 players, including Paul and his teammate Devin Booker, are averaging at least 10 points per game on pull-up jumpers during the playoffs. Of those 8, Paul and Kevin Durant are the only 2 shooting over 50%.
You know, some years ago, when I played with the Clippers, the whole league went to this drop defense. You know what I mean? And I was like, that's what y'all gonna give up, I'm gonna try to perfect it.
To counteract all of the perimeter shooting, most of the league stopped hedging ball screens, dropping the big back towards the rim instead. The logic behind the drop is to stay at home on shooters. Keep the ball in front while the defender guarding the handler rushes back to get at least a rear view contest on the shot. It's great in theory. Allow the pull-up jumper instead of 3-pointers. Except when that pull-up jump shooter is someone like Paul. Just ask Jokic and the Nuggets how drop coverage worked out for them. The issue is there isn't always a great alternative. When the Lakers tried to crowd Paul by giving help at the nail, players like Crowder and Cam Johnson stepped up and played their role. The Nuggets even flirted with trying to hedge, but that's a lot to ask from Jokic over a 48-minute game. Here he has a great initial hedge, but the Suns immediately flow into a second ball screen, and this time Jokic gets exploited. At the risk of stating the obvious, it's very hard to play defense against the best teams in the NBA. Of course, that's always been the case, but the three-point revolution has only made it harder. By optimizing spacing along the perimeter, stars like Chris Paul and Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard have more room to create efficient mid-range opportunities. And now, even at age 36, with thousands of possessions against drop coverage under his belt, Paul's mid-range game is as valuable as ever.
A big thank you to Jordan. You can subscribe to his Hoop Vision 68 channel if you want amazing college basketball breakdowns, X's and O's, and more. To support this channel directly and access additional content and stats, check out patreon.com/thinkingbasketball. Next Saturday, July 10th, is our next community Q&A for deluxe members. As always, thanks for watching, and yes, I hope you're having a great day.